Hey everybody, it's Trags alongside CLNS media colleague Alex Barth. We're outside Fenway Park. Dat dude BP. That would be Brandon Phillips to you and me. I got to tell you, Alex, I'm excited about the addition of Brandon Phillips, if for only one reason, and that's some energy in a clubhouse in September that's going to be looking toward the postseason. And I think if you can be 97-44 like the Red Sox are and still be stale, maybe that creeps in. But what Brandon Phillips brings in addition to his defense and in addition to his veteran leadership is some energy to that clubhouse.
Well, that's been one of the big knocks on this team for the past couple of years, right? Has been complacency. Now you hope that with John Farrell being out of the picture that changes, but I think Phillips can help. And anybody who watches these videos, who follows the Red Sox coverage at CLNS, knows I was up in Lowell covering that team for part of the season. I was up there when Brandon Phillips was there, and I got to talk to him, and he's doing this for all of the right reasons. He's not worried about the contract. He's not worried about the numbers. He's had a long career. He's had a very impressive career, numerous Gold Gloves, numerous All-Stars. He's just missing a ring, and that's what he's here to do. That's what he's here to go and get. And I think especially for some of the younger guys in the clubhouse who don't have a ring yet, to see that, you know, this is what it looks like 17 years down the road still chasing it, I do think that that's an attitude and that's an outlook on the game that's going to be invaluable to this team.
How often during the year have we heard Alex Cora say that Brandon Workman is the only guy in that clubhouse with a World Series ring? He's said it on multiple occasions. Brandon Phillips fits into that mold. But let's cut to the chase. Yeah. Does Brandon Phillips have a realistic chance of landing on the playoff roster? He is indeed eligible because he played minor league baseball within the Red Sox organization well before August 31st. So that's not an issue. The question is, if Brandon Phillips makes this playoff roster because he shows something in the final weeks of the regular season, whose spot does he take?
I would go with Eduardo Nunez. I think he has a good chance to take that spot from Nunez. He was hitting 300 in Pawtucket when he came back from the wrist injury. And don't forget, he probably would have been called up sooner if not for that wrist injury. They go out and they trade for Ian Kinsler a couple of days later. I think that was their plan B. I think plan A all along was Phillips. That being said, Kinsler has come and he's hit. So I think his spot is safe. But Nunez is hitting 256 entering the time we're recording this video. That's Thursday. He has been inconsistent at the plate all year. His plate discipline has been lacking. I think he went a streak of about 140 plate appearances without a walk. That's not the Red Sox system. That's not how they like to play. I think if Nunez continues to struggle at the plate, isn't great defensively like we've seen, Phillips can still bring it with the glove too. I think that there's a real case to be made for what he brings in terms of veteran leadership to put Brandon Phillips on the 25-man playoff roster over Eduardo Nunez.
Okay, I've got to give you the devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
What about Rafael Devers? What about one of the three Red Sox catchers that could be potentially on that roster? I mean, those are options, too, for Dave Dombrowski and Alex Cora to say, look, do we really need three catchers? If something happens to Christian Vasquez, let's say, we've got Blake Swihart, who Alex Cora considers, if not his best pinch runner, one of the best pinch runners on the team.
And Swihart is an interesting case because he can also play third base depending on what happens with Rafael Devers. Evan Drellick had the 25-man roster. He had 14 offensive spots. He tweeted that out earlier today. I thought he put together a pretty good list. It did contain two catchers. It did have Eduardo Nunez. It did not have Brandon Phillips. So for Phillips to win the spot, whose place is he going to take in terms of playing time? You're looking at Eduardo Nunez. How does he get on the roster? Yes, I think carrying three catchers, does Sandy Leon stay as good as he is with the pitching staff? Do they carry his bat? Do they carry Christian Vasquez? As good as he is, they've won without him. I think Devers is safe because of the power he brings to the middle of that lineup. I think Swihart is safe because of the versatility that he brings. But if I do have to leave one of those catchers off, it is Swihart because Phillips does have some versatility. He can play a little bit of third base as well. And Swihart's been hot, but if Brandon Phillips can hit like he was hitting in Pawtucket, that bat between Swihart and Phillips is probably a wash.
Nobody has had a debut in a Red Sox uniform wearing the number 0, ever. That we know for sure. And certainly very few Red Sox players had the kind of dramatic debut that Brandon Phillips had on Wednesday with his go-ahead 2-run homer in the 9th inning in his hometown in Atlanta for that incredible 9-8 Red Sox win. But after, the day one euphoria, what do we really need to see in terms of numbers? Quantify this a little bit, Alex Barth.
Well, he hit 260 last year, around 260 with the Braves. Like I said, Eduardo Nunez comes into today hitting 256. So if he can be around that 260, 270 range, he was hitting 300 in Pawtucket. He doesn't need to quite be there. But somewhere in between those two numbers and capable defense, with the leadership he brings and what he's going to bring to that locker room, it's going to be tough for Alex Cora to keep him off the roster. One more Spinners reference for me before we wrap it up. After Brandon Phillips came to Lowell, the team was right around a little below 500 when he came to Lowell. He was only there for 3 games. The team ripped off an 11-game winning streak, a franchise record 11-game winning streak after they had Brandon Phillips in the locker room for 3 games. I don't think that's a coincidence. None of the players there thought it was a coincidence. Nobody up at the Lasher Park thought it was a coincidence. So if you look at that, if you look at the intangibles, it's tough to keep Brandon Phillips off this roster.
I was with the Cincinnati Reds in 2012 covering that NLDS against the San Francisco Giants when Phillips had a home run in game number 2. Reds went up 2-0, and then the wheels fell off. And I saw Brandon Phillips and several other of those Reds after the Game 5 collapse in Cincinnati. Now Brandon Phillips gets another chance, if he can make this roster, to get back to the postseason. I got to think this is an incredible opportunity for him.
And he knows it. He's not immune to the understanding of what's going on here. There's a reason he came to Boston. He could have signed with other teams sooner, but it would have been a stretch, if that, for him to get a ring. He came to Boston like the reason a lot of athletes come to Boston. If you win a championship in Boston, they remember you forever. So not only does he get a chance to win a ring, but he gets a chance to do it in a city in baseball where it may mean more than any other city in the league, frankly.
All right, will Brandon Phillips find a place on his roster, on the playoff roster of the Red Sox? Will that be proven over the final weeks of the regular season? A great story to follow. We'll have you covered on CLNS Media and on Twitter at Red Sox CLNS. Outside Fenway Park, he's Alex Barth. I'm Mike Petralia, CLNS Media.